Joining us now, Dan Perry, the former chief editor of the Associated Press in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Good morning to you, Dan. What did King Abdullah II agree to here?
I think he agreed to taking in 2,000 sick children, which is a nice humanitarian gesture, but obviously falls well short of Trump's ideas. I have to say, Trump's fantasies that Jordan may take in hundreds of thousands or maybe even 2 million Palestinian refugees. You have to understand, Jordan is basically a rather benign police state run by a minority of non-Palestinians, but 60 to 70% of its population is Palestinian descended, and most of them identify as such. And keeping this whole potential, cauldron under wraps is a big part of King Abdullah's worries. Probably more than the 1.7 billion he gets from the U.S. The idea that he'd agree to take Palestinians in huge numbers, not just Palestinians, but Gaza Palestinians who have just been through 20 years of jihadist indoctrination by Hamas, especially the young ones, does seem rather implausible.
You call it a fantasy, also the sort of redevelopment of Gaza. Is it a serious proposal, and what are some of the long-term ideas being floated about these refugees if they were to, in fact, land in Jordan or Egypt or elsewhere?
Marni, no one knows what to make of it. Some of Trump's ideas are, even if widely opposed, are real, like pulling out of the World Health Organization. Other ideas are sort of, negotiations or provocations or whatever it might be, like annexing Canada and making Justin Trudeau the governor. That's not going to. So might it happen that the U.S. somehow takes over the Gaza Strip and Israel finds itself with bordering the United States, as it probably always wanted? I don't know anyone who thinks that's likely to happen. It kind of looks like this is a threat versus Hamas, and perhaps a way to make the Arab countries sort of wake up and understand that they have to make serious moves vis-a-vis Hamas to compel Hamas to get out of the way and enable an alternative government in Gaza. It's very tricky because Israel itself has been blocking the engineering of the main alternative to Hamas in Gaza, which is the Palestinian Authority, now based in the West Bank. Israel has its own internal political shenanigans, but everyone, I think, agrees, including the Arab states, that Hamas has to go, and yet they're not doing much to bring that about. Now, I have to think that if there's a method to the madness, that's what it must be. But the notion of the U.S. building magnificent results for all the world's beautiful people in Gaza, which is completely devastated, I just don't know anyone who thinks that's going to happen anytime soon.
The situation with this ceasefire deal is so fragile right now, Dan. How much leverage does Hamas have? And now we're talking about this noon Saturday deadline for a hostage release.
Well, no one knows if the noon deadline applies to the 3 hostages they're supposed to release in accordance with the plan, or to all the hostages, the remaining 76, I believe, as Trump at one point said, or something in between. If Hamas agrees to release the 3 and Israel says it's no longer enough, and Trump backs them up, or maybe the other way around, that would be a violation of the agreement that Israel signed with Hamas, at the urging of Trump. So all of this is a little bit bizarre and looks like Trumpian brinksmanship, I have to say. And as such, who knows, it might be successful. But Hamas, generally speaking, is difficult to gain leverage against because they're crazy and they don't mind, bringing destruction upon themselves. Consider that they basically started the war they could not win and caused monumental destruction and death to their own people in Gaza. And somehow they think they can cling to power in Gaza. And undoubtedly, they still have support, less in Gaza than elsewhere. But much of the Arab world sees this and says, yeah, give me more. So Hamas's big leverage on Israel is that they have the hostages. Israel's leverage on Hamas is what? We're going to devastate you even more. I don't know anyone in Israel who actually thinks that Hamas would give in to such pressure. their plan is to get Israel to basically destroy Gaza altogether because they think there's a PR victory for the Palestinians in that long term. They are a version of evil, and dealing with them is never easy. It wasn't easy for a liberal American administration that basically tries to make nice and sound reasonable all the time. Trump presents reasonably presents a different tactic of basically sounding like a mafia don and trying to terrify them into submission. I hope it works better, but I'm not that optimistic. And I think if we're not careful, all this braggadocio could conceivably cause the ceasefire to collapse. And that would not be popular in Israel because most people in Israel, after a year and 4 months of this war, are kind of happy to call it a day for the moment and want to prioritize the hostages. And any cavalier return to the war by Israel, compelled by Trump, stands a very good chance of sacrificing the lives of the remaining hostages.
Yeah, let's not forget October the 7th and what Hamas is capable of. We'll have you back, sir, but I appreciate you stopping by.
Pleasure.